like that flashy video intro. That's nice. Okay, welcome to our live recap show for the 2017 Sinquefield Cup round 5. Yeah, this is the final round before the rest day coming up on Monday. So let's have a look at round 5. Interesting round, I think. And a mixed bag. I think all the games had some good content, but as we are going to limit ourselves to roughly 30 minutes, 40 minutes video, I think it makes sense to focus on let's say 2 games mostly. I'm going to start with the game. Let me click correctly. MVL against Levoneronia. And I should mention that you're of course allowed to participate in the chat, ask questions, or give me hints to what I might miss in my commentary. So first game, MVL against Aronia. 2 players fighting for the victory in this event. Especially MVL had a great day yesterday, beating Carlsen from a lost position, which is really nice. So let's have a look what they did. And it's one of those Gioco Pianos Italian games again. We get the fashionable A4 variation, and all this has been seen tons of times. I think it's safe to say that the move orders here are very confusing, and I think it was MVL himself who said that he didn't understand the move orders in the Gioco Piano, and that made him hesitate to pick up this opening. And then he said he figured out that nobody understands the move orders, so he just plays it. A nice little idea here by Aronian with b5. White can obviously not take,
check,
as there is a nice little tactic here based on the discovered state on the A file. So bishop back, and now b4. Now we get a very distinctively Spanish Ruy Lopez feeling to this position. I don't think it's a transposition, but it looks very, very Spanish-like. The middle game that unfolds is quite well known from various anti-marshals, something that Aronian of course has great experience with. D5, so the center gets opened, and we get a somewhat it's some things here are very normal, but some things are very unconventional in this position. Take note of the b pawn and the stuck bishop on b1. An interesting setup. It is still quite equal, this position, but it is complicated. With f5, the pawn on e5 is left for the taking, but MVL does not take it. He could have done this capture. It's nothing particularly wrong with it. Bishop f7 is probably the reply, and black will get his pawn back ultimately. This is also what happened, and with this tactic the knight now is impossible to save for white. It all looks very flashy, but at the end this is mostly just trading stuff. If you count now, it is equal material. However, the pieces that black has here look a little bit strange, all on the d file. In the actual game, we get somewhat complicated ending where in this sequence the knight is pinned, and it's impossible for black to really save it. This ending here, they continued for quite a while, and you can of course argue at first sight that white could be maybe better with the 2 minor pieces, but in the ending a rook and pawn is usually pretty strong, and in this case rook e5 is the important move that nets black the a pawn. And in this situation, it's basically impossible to do anything for white, yeah, and for black. Yeah, they continued for a little while, but in this ending, again, there is really not much to try. Yeah, I repeat it there. It's yeah, it's a draw at the end. Not an uninteresting game by any means, but I have something else at the end to show that will take more time. We have the game Kayakin Nepomniachtchi as well, and it's a Pirc defense. That is really uncommon at that level. But interesting choice by Nepo. He just has won in round 4 against Nakamura, and maybe now out for blood against his compatriot. Pirc defense pretty sharp. And Kayakin plays his special weapon. It's quite interesting. He plays the Austrian attack, the 3-pawn attack, but his special move is to play bishop d3 first and not knight f3. There is a reason for that. The bishop here is giving additional protection to e4, and this way a line with c5 is basically prevented as white can take. Yeah, here black does not have the usual queen a5 resource as white just takes. This is still covered. Note that this is the normal move, after which c5 is good. Not is good, yeah. Is a line, let's say, yeah, that you don't need to prevent, but he does prevent it with bishop d3. Knight c6. And now bishop e2. That's really rare. Yeah? You don't see that all that often. e5 is the normal move played by Kayakin just earlier this year. Okay, so we got this trade, and with e5, black is trying to focus here with play on the dark squares, as we see here. Of course, not a passive retreat. It's not necessary at all. It's a good square on d4. Of course, there's a well-known tactical trap. This is not possible for knight takes e4. Queen takes, rook e8, and you lose the queen. Shouldn't do that. So the knight cannot simply be taken. Yeah, with c6, black is initiating counterplay, and after the capture, he takes with the b pawn. That's important. Yeah, you can do this. But taking with a pawn makes a lot of sense, because the pawn is covering this weak square on d5, and you get additional options, yeah, b-file, and it's not really a big deal that the pawn is isolated. I think black's position is quite comfortable. And the way it continued, I mean, I think Kayakin's play here looks somewhat passive. Check. I think black is in really nice shape. Yeah, he's got good control here over f4. Rook d8 is coming. All this is looking very comfortable. Yeah, the d-file is also rather in black's hand. Yeah, Marcus says that he has given up on f4 against the Pirc defense. Because of games like these. I kind of understand. Yeah, I'm currently working on a e4 based repertoire for white, and I was looking for something against the Pirc, and I considered exactly Kayakin's setup, but ultimately decided against it. It's interesting, but what I feel is what's not so great. It's not very flexible, this f4 stuff. Okay, in this game, and I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, black made slow progress on the king side. Very nice. Yeah? He trades those, or tries to trade them, to gain further control over f4 and weaken the dark squares. This happened in the game. We see that Kayakin tries to escape into a rook ending, and this rook ending looks very, very grim for white. However, in the relatively short distance between the end of this game and the start of the show, I couldn't figure out if there was a win for black. This is also something where you simply cannot just give it to an engine and hope that it tells you the truth, because the engine will always give an advantage in such a position for black, but it's pretty difficult to figure out if there's something really that you can use to win the game, or you're just better like eternally. Yeah, this is often something to check in an ending when you look at the engine. If it gives like +1 and it keeps giving +1 and it never changes, oftentimes it's an advantage in some way, but not really something that you can convert to a win.
Check.
So I'll show you what happened. They got to 4 against 3, which usually is a draw, but here it looks pretty good for black. He's got activity, and this is all not that well coordinated. So the h-pawn is giving the counterplay, and here with the pawn on h7, black has to put the rook into a passive place. I think it is probably a draw. My gut feeling is it is a draw, but it is that's very true. Yeah, this statement in the chat, they're often drawn in analysis, but over the board is a different animal. Especially when you, endings kind of happen at the end, and well, you've got little time, they can easily screw up. In this case, time wasn't an issue. Yeah, we see that Nepo had lots of time, and he's a very quick player anyway. I think sometimes it would help if you would rather take a longer think once in a while. So after this, we can be sure that it is a draw. Yeah, white managed to trade the h-pawn against the f4 pawn, and with everything so close, let's say,
check,
to one another, this is a very easy draw. Again, it's tough to say if there was a winning opportunity for black. I don't really think so, but it's something that I couldn't figure out in the short time that was available. The third game that is going to be covered more briefly is Nakamura Svidler. We had Svidler angling for a marshal. Nepo should do a few training sessions with Grishuk. Yeah, Grishuk famously stated that he worked through the endgame manual by Mark Dvoretsky 4 times, cover to cover. And if that's really true, oh my god. That is really, oh my god. So, what did Nakamura do? Not c3, allowing the marshal. You don't see that all that often nowadays. He played a4, one of the various anti-marshals, and Svidler goes for a very reliable setup against that. Now surprisingly Nakamura chooses to take on e5. This is not, I think, the most... I don't think this can be very testing, is what I wanted to say. I mean, how can black be under pressure in such a situation? It just looks like a super solid Rui, with rook e8, bishop f8, knight comes to c5, and so on. Especially knight on d2 doesn't do much. I felt that black should be totally fine here with simple play. Yeah, the knight on c5 gets a good outpost, and now with d5 being played, we have even white's advantage of the e4 pawn against the d6 pawn. This is what, at least academically, is defining why white could be better here, space. After this is gone, the only thing that white could have what white could say is an advantage for him is the maybe slightly better centralization, but it is not doing all that much. In the game, of course, they tried hard to get something from this position, and I always feel a little bit bad because I'm going through those moves like it is the easiest thing in the world to play, and it's not. It's really not. It's just that you cannot focus on every single move in such a format. Swiddler actually gave the h7 pawn here in order to activate. After the trade, we see that he's got clear compensation. In fact, I mean, you don't see it maybe like right away, but you see it once you look a bit more closely. This is the threat to trap the bishop. So white has to invest a move to secure it, and now rook d2, rook b2 are the key ideas that keep black very active. There's an info in the chat that the capture on e5 was played because of a new idea after d takes e5, and that's why Swiddler decided to take with the knight. Pawn takes is more common, I think. So we had this position, and again the second rook is coming to b2. So Swiddler was going for an active defense. You have to see that a5 and c3 are quite weak, and they are easier for black to attack than a6 and c7. And in general, currently white is a pawn up, but this is the h pawn, which can be a passer in the long run, but currently isn't doing all that much concretely. It doesn't attack anything or control anything that is important. So ultimately, Swiddler held a draw here very comfortably. He got to the a5 pawn, and now the king is also more active. If you look at this with the computer, it will give some wide advantage, but I don't think it's anything serious ever. Just trade everything down. Nice fork trick, and then they agreed to a draw. So again, it's a bit of a quick replay of this game. It's just not as interesting as the two other games that are left. So a draw here between Nakamura and Swiddler. So next game we are going to check is Anand. Where do we have it? My notes. Anand white against Caruana. So we have 1c4 by the let's not screw it up. The 15th world champion. Yes, it's right. Kasparov is number 13, then Kramnik 14, and now 13 for 15th. World champion 15. Vichy. Okay, so we have an English opening, and after g3, Caruana goes for the reversed dragon. Now the next sequence of moves is really surprising. Bishop g2, and now the move that is played basically all of the time is the move knight to b6. Black is retreating this knight because there's pressure on the center, and normally it continues like this, then a3, castles, and so on. Caruana played this move, and I was a bit shocked to be honest. I had never seen this setup played by black. It is of course completely normal with colors reversed, to play bishop c4 against an accelerated dragon, but a tempo down, I've never seen it. Simply never. Alan castles, I think this is understandable, and Caruana also castling. So what do we have to check here? The direct moves, the captures, like knight takes e5 is something to check. If black takes, it's a pawn for nothing. So it has to be this move, and after knight 6, knight d1, knight d8.
Check.
There is this funny point, and white is not really getting anywhere. Quite weird. Or you take, not this one, or you take knight takes d4, and you get the piece back, but you have no advantage for white. So there is no direct tactical knight takes e5 available. Maybe taking is interesting and playing knight g5. This is a whole new idea, this kind of setup. It has been played, but never by any top player. Yeah, interestingly enough, there are very strange tactics available here. For example, after queen d8, white could consider to take here, because after king takes,
check,
there's a double attack. Yeah. Black might play this, however, and trying to trap the knight. It's really strange stuff. But Anand didn't do it. He played d3 very quickly also, which I find is quite surprising, because the black setup is really not what you usually do. And I would have definitely taken some time to see if you can do something against this, but he just played normally. Yeah, it's indeed funny. You often see Vishy Anand being asked by journalists if he has any intention to retire, and he's getting annoyed at this question. I mean, and understandably so. Why should he? Yeah? He's still playing really well. Okay, bishop b6, bishop d2, and all the like normal looking moves. Rook c1, and Caruana captured and played rook e8. In general, what black is trying to achieve in such a setup, and we have the same thing with colors reversed, is to build up a stronghold over d4 and put a piece onto d4, trying to provoke white into playing e3 or react in some way. e3 or taking. This is what black wants to do. Anand plays b4, queen d6, knight d2. Yeah, interesting move. The knight heads towards c4. Yeah, we have to check this real briefly. Oops. Rooks on the 4th rank have been a theme of that tournament. We remember Aronian's round 1 game against Nepomniachtchi. So cannot take this, and queen h6 was played, knight c4, and queen h5. Interesting queen maneuver, putting some pressure against the e2 pawn. Yeah, covered with rook c2, and now rook d8. So black has a very nicely centralized position. I think we can definitely conclude that black should be okay here. Anand played the capture and the move f3. f3 doesn't look all that attractive, but it's the case of, yeah, how else to make some progress. Yeah, what he wants to do is, we see the idea revealed in the game, push this back, queen d2, and now being ready to push f4 so that both bishops get more active. So this is played, and f4. Yeah, and here in this position, it seems that Caruana is simply losing the threat a little bit. He should simply take on f4 probably. Yeah, after this, rook takes and f6. That looks a bit better for white, but black's position is still extremely solid. Take note that it is difficult for white to move the pawns forward. Yeah, you cannot just simply push e and d pawn. All black's pieces are centralized quite nicely. This is simply what he had to do, but he played the move bishop g4, and this is leading into some issues. Anand now found a good move, and it's something that, I mean, it is on one hand very simple, and on the other hand still not so easy to do. He just gave up his strong looking bishop. So after this, he can capture now with the pawn. White has won a pawn, so it looks like a very simple decision to take on c6, but you can also argue that white is getting into an opposite colored bishop situation where it's not clear that you have anything. However, what we shouldn't underestimate is that white can pretty easily activate, especially a move like rook f4 can be quite annoying. Yeah, just stay active and sometimes even keep this option open, opening up the long diagonal. Very likely black has to stop the pawn at some point. In the game, I think, Caruana is panicking too early. If he plays something like bishop h3 or bishop e6, something like that, something that is basically not committing too much, then it's still not totally clear how Arne is going to play that. I mean, white is quite clearly better, which makes it weird that Caruana allowed this, but it's not something where you expect white to win quickly. In the game, f6 was played, which is a radical solution. The problem is it just doesn't work, as it sometimes is. It all looks nice, but it doesn't work. So you, of course, have to check the capture, and this is what Vichy did. He just took the pawn, rook takes e2, and f7. This is the big problem. After f7, white is crashing through here. King to f8. Yeah, and now Vichy found a strong solution. And it's not so difficult. As I always tell to my students, you should never ever tell me that you missed a move that was with check and that captures something. So a move, and the very first move that you calculate in this position is, of course, the capture on g7.
Check.
And this is what happened. Black, of course, has to take.
Check.
And then queen c3. That makes it a fairly simple line to calculate in comparison. So let's have a check how this will continue. The king is checked, so it has to react there. Black has to react, and we can look at all the critical lines. Very simple is the king coming forward. Let's just mate in one. That doesn't work. Also very simple.
Check.
This one
check
will win very easily. So you basically only have black interposing on e5. So rook e5, queen e5, those kind of moves. In the game, the move rook e5 was played. We should check queen e5 briefly. This is easily winning with rook takes e2, queen c3, and rook e8. Nice. This is coming with decisive effect. Black has a check, but white doesn't really care. Can simply not stop f8. Yeah? Even like after this desperado, it's the same situation. You attack this, you cover this, white wins. So the move rook e5 was played, and if you like and you have not seen the game, it's possible that you haven't. This is a good moment to think about it for a moment and try to find a solution now. Yeah, I mean, okay, this is a live show and I cannot wait like 10 minutes and like everybody got it. You cannot do that. But if you see the recorded version, you can simply pause the video and try to find the solution that Vichy found here. It's really, really cute. So the winning move is any ideas? Okay, he played queen d4. That's really, really nice. Yeah? The queen on d4 cannot be taken. If black takes the queen,
check.
We just checkmate black. On the other hand, what threats does white have? The biggest one is simply taking this. And they got a line in the chat. I'll have a look at this. Yeah, what is black supposed to do? He can move the rook here, but simply here we'll pick up e5 with an easy win. Yeah, queen d4 is a very pretty move. So there's a line given by A.L. Siegel in the chat. What is the line? Queen e5? Let's have a look. Queen e5. Rook e2. That's what I get.
Check.
Queen b4. Ah, okay.
Check.
That's a good line. f8 queen. Tick, tick. Wow, that's a long line.
Check.
And Anand wasn't sure if he can win that. Okay. Yeah, that's not a line I looked at in the preparation for this, and I didn't see the interview. I can understand why he's a little bit skeptical there. This is actually continued. Check. Like this, h5.
Check.
Tja. White is... I would assume that white should be able to win this somehow, but I cannot really give you a recipe. If Anand says this would have been tricky, I'm not the one to correct the former world champion just like off the bat. It is definitely not easy, yeah? That's definitely clear. Still, a very nice game by Vishy here against Caruana, who doesn't really feel like in form. So, the final game to check is world number 1, Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, against Wesley So, who was, I'm not sure, I think he's currently maybe number 3 or so. It's tough, yeah, with the ratings being that close. Might be Krumnik being number 2. I'm not at all sure. I would need to check the websites. It's all very, very close. So it's definitely the duel of the world champion with black against one of the strongest contenders who had a really, really great past year, Wesley So. And Carlsen needs to win this game, ideally, to get back into the hunt after he gifted a point away. So we have a Scotch opening, very interesting, and not something that Wesley So is playing all that often. Carlsen has a surprise in check, and in fact it's a check.
Check.
Yeah, this is actually my line, if I may dare to call it like that. It's what I always play, yeah. I'm happy to see it on the highest level. It is not a fantastic line, I have to say, but it served me quite well over the years. c3 is played, and now Carlsen somewhat surprisingly, goes back to e7. The move bishop c5 is the move that I always play in this position, and is usually considered to be the main continuation. The point that black wants to make is that the move c3 is not all that useful for white, as you oftentimes want to develop your knight there. Bishop e7 is a more solid approach. Black is basically saying, okay, I'm putting up a somewhat passive but sound position, and your pawn on c3 is not all that great. Good question. Will I second Carlsen for the next World Championship? I can send him my analysis on Bishop b4 check, which is a couple of years old and was done on some really slow computer. I don't know. I don't think it will help. Okay, so Bishop d3, d6. We see that Black's position is very, very sound, very solid, but not very active. Knight d2. And rook to e8. So white has more space. He should be a little bit better, but it's not something that will translate into a very, very straightforward plan so quickly. Played knight f3 and knight d7, played by Carlsen. Yeah, we have to see that this is an interesting regrouping. This does a couple of things. The knight might jump to c5. It opens up this path for the bishop, and then ultimately maybe bishop to g4. After those moves, we see that Carlsen has at least managed to complete his development, And I don't think this is all that terrible for black. It looks quite reasonable, I think. The computers give white like half a pawn, which is, I mean, it's not like a win, but it is something. But I am not really sure that this is so true. After h3, the bishop was of course preserved. Bishop to e3. Yeah, taking on c5, I don't think black wants a triple pawn, so we return to d7. This is actually provoking white to play the move g4, as black is trying to use this pin. And in fact, g4 was played very soonish, understandably. Yeah, bishop g6, and now very direct approach by white with e5. Yeah, using this this pin. Yeah, it looks pretty nice for white, but we shouldn't forget he has played g4, he has weakened his king position also, and here after rook b8 there are some counter ideas as well. It looks a little bit like Carlsen wanted to somehow provoke white into doing something active, and he did, g4, e5 and so on. It however doesn't seem to be all that clear how white should continue now. Yeah, the computers, they give something weird like b3 in this position, and I'm not sure that this can endanger black all that much. You can, for example, after a move like this, you can play bishop e4 even. Yeah, I'm also surprised that the engine is disliking black's position that much. I mean, an edge is okay, yeah, but half a pawn sounds drastic. In the game, So played bishop f4, and this it seems is not a good decision. I mean, what did Magnus do? It's pretty obvious. Just grab the pawn. And there's no reason not to do that. Just take the b2 pawn. Yeah, now e takes d6 was played. The computer also dislikes this. It wants to take on d7, and after this, play knight e5. The main point of this is completely like trading down the whole board, basically. Yeah, like this, and indeed this looks very, very drawish. Bishop d7 may be a safe choice. He decided to take on d6, however, and now after bishop d6
check
and this capture, we see that the situation is not all that clear, because after queen d6 the move queen e2 hit, and it gets tricky now. This is a very substantial threat, and white in fact cannot do much there besides playing the queen back. Yeah, now black is definitely better, and we see that the heavy pieces are active on the second rank, and definitely it's a critical situation for for white. Knight f8, yeah, putting the knight onto a safe square, but it's a good safe square. We shouldn't forget that this would be pretty neat to get in. Yeah. Yeah, it is not easy for white at all. This position is absolutely not easy to play. It seems that bishop b3 is the strongest idea, covering this pawn for the moment. After c4 there is knight d4. Still, you rather want to be black, but this is probably better than what was played. After rook e1, the move rook b1 was very annoying, simply attacking e1 and forcing the trade. Yeah, and now how do you cover the a pawn? I mean, this is not really what white envisioned here. Bishop c6, and Carlsen was able to grab the pawn. Yeah, so black is just a pawn up. He won the a2 pawn basically out of nothing. Queen to d6, and now a nice strong move by the world champion. He played queen to c4. Yeah, just attacking the c3 pawn, and it is extremely difficult for white to to play something good now. The question was, why not rook e1 to drive the queen away? I'm sorry for that. At what move, please? Rook e1 was played, but it didn't drive the queen away because of rook b1. Yeah, there was a question in the chat, but I'm not quite sure what move it referred to. Yeah, so here there was no way to drive it away. Black was just in time to get this traded. Yeah, here we come to almost the final position of the game. It's not really lasting all that much longer. Yeah, here queen c7 should have been played in order to simply, after queen takes, grab a7. This position is probably lost. Yeah, it is probably lost. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't have made a huge difference. In the game, So played knight e5, and Magnus simply took on c3, and that's it. The game is over now. Amazingly, yeah, he just resigned, being 2 pawns down. I'm not sure what he was thinking when he was giving up c3 just like that, but now after some thought he resigned the game. So Magnus is coming back from a loss, pretty terrible loss, in round 4 with an immediate win over one of his strongest rivals. So Carlsen is back in the hunt with being on +1. So instead of the queen move, now I see. There was a suggestion in the chat to like here, yeah, rook e1, but you're here. You're threatened with checkmate. So there is no other move really. You have to play queen g3. It's the only one to cover f2 and cover f3. Yeah, but again, this is not working. You cannot drive the queen away. It just doesn't work. There was one remark also in the chat that maybe So counted on c takes d6 and not the unnatural looking bishop d6. Well, I would strongly disagree actually. Bishop d6 is the only move I would consider here. To be honest, why should black play with the pawn? I mean, you want to get rid of this bishop. That bishop here just sucks on e7. And here we also have some stronger, we have some tactical justification simply by, if you look at the, look at the game line, black is coming in. So it's a concrete calculation. I think he probably saw bishop takes d6, but there must have been some kind of misevaluation after that. Sometimes there's just a very little detail that one of the top players miss, and that makes a choice look really awkward, like, why did he do that? And then afterwards they explain that there was just a little thing that they missed, which is oftentimes very, very understandable. Yeah. Okay, so we had a look at all the games, and I hope you enjoyed the coverage here for the 5th round. We'll be back with the daily round recap after round 6 is played, which will be on Tuesday, upcoming Tuesday. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.